welcome back to the MyGuru online MAT classroom. Today we're going to take a look at another topic for the analogies that can appear on the exam, and that's going to be grammar. And again, grammar may seem like something that you may have wanted to avoid if you were taking the MAT versus, say, the ACT or the SAT or even the GMAT with potentially sentence corrections on that exam. But the way that the MAT teaches grammar, or tests grammar as it were, is more based on the relationships between some of the punctuation markings, for example, and what they actually indicate from a definition standpoint. Now, when it comes to the analogy, we have to first always begin by identifying where the blank is and therefore where the pivot lies. So in this case, we see that term A is the blank, which means that term D is going to be our pivot because it is the only of the given terms that cannot relate to any of the answer choices. So it has to relate to one of the terms that has been provided. So now we've got to look at explanation and see whether that has a relationship to pause or to colon. Now, you can always start by just considering if there's a relationship. So sometimes you may define a relationship and say something like pause is when you give an explanation. You know, you might be able to come up with something like that. Now, a good thing to remember is that if none of the choices create an identical relationship, you may need to revisit if you chose the proper terms. Because, terms. So in this case, if we're looking at pause and explanation and we're to say pause is when you give an explanation, none of these things is going to be when you give a colon, right? That would make no sense. So we need to reevaluate what we originally decided and consider whether or not it may actually be a relationship to the other term, in this case, colon. And a colon doesn't necessarily just mean the part of your body. It obviously also can be a punctuation mark. And a colon indicates a subsequent explanation is coming grammatically. And so we need to find a punctuation mark that is going to indicate a pause. So now that we've properly defined what colon means in this case, and again, we know we have to consider secondary definitions at all times, we can eliminate wait and explain as basically being the wrong relationship, because we know it has to be tied to grammar in this case. And whenever you're dealing with grammar or literally anything on this exam, you have to always be literal, because it may seem like a period could indicate a pause, but it doesn't. A period indicates a full stop. So it's not the same, and it's the wrong term, basically. Whereas a semicolon does, in fact, indicate a pause grammatically and is the right answer choice for this problem.